Hi, in this video I want to show you a few essentials that in my opinion every CAD system you use to model orthopedic lasts should have. Um, Here you see the screen, and on the screen there's the blueprint, there's a scan of a 3D foot cast and a picture of the feet of the client. I'll get rid of the picture. I always use a lot of pictures. The first thing that's necessary is that you should be able to position the foot scan and the blueprint in the desired position. Um, so what you should be able to do, and it sounds like it's obvious, but I've seen CAD systems that even that couldn't even position the last and the blueprint. So you should be able to rotate the blueprint easy, and you should be able to rotate and position and drag the last of the foot scan easily. In this case I'll position the blueprint more or less straight, and the foot scan accordingly, and you should take the time to do this good. Any misalignment will cause problems later on in the production, in the modeling production. How do we say that? Okay. In this case I wanted a heel pitch of about 1.5 centimeters. So I'll bring this to 1.5 centimeters, and in this direction, well, it depends on what you want to achieve, but I always look on the back side and then rotate it from this point to that point. Okay. This is more or less okay. Another thing you should be able to do is to make minor changes on the foot scan. For instance, in this case it's quite nicely done, but you might want to change the toe pitch a little bit. So I'll bend it, you see. Adjustments like this, it's always the question, is it anatomically right what you do? So I always try to limit the changes of the foot scan in and keep it as little as possible. Another thing you want to be able to adjust is, for instance, the direction of the leg. Again, don't make large changes, because what you do in CAD will not represent reality for 100%. In this case I can rotate the leg. I always take the center of the ankle, but you keep in mind that the rotation of the ankle is not a simple rotation around one point. It's a 3D rotation with a X that is oriented in a 3D space, not exactly horizontal or from left to right. Also, it's not a single X. The X of the rotation will change during the rotation. So those things are so complicated, it's better to not try to imitate it in your CAD system, because you will not succeed. But small adjustments are always possible. Another thing that I often do is to change the pro-supination of the forefoot. Okay, that's a quite complicated movement, but let's say I want to give a little bit more pronation in the forefoot of this cast. I use shear, not rotate. See, I exaggerate now to make it more clearly what's happening. I'll show you from this side too. But again, be careful with changes like this. In earlier videos I already showed how I model a last around a cast like this. I now just want to show you what things should be possible to do with that last, to be able to have the same degree of freedom you have when you model by hand. Here's the last I modeled, and you see, I'll get rid of the blueprint, and what you see is this last, and it has a certain layout. It has its control points at essential places. That makes it possible for me to model the last the way I want to model it. Let's say if I have a last that has another layout, I'll change the layout of this last to show you, and I'll just increase the amount of control points dramatically. When I have a last that has so many control points as this one, you will understand that it's very hard to make meaningful changes of the last. When I see this one, this manipulation, makes more sense. I hope you see that. When I want to manipulate the instep, for instance, I can manipulate it like this, and keep it smooth. While manipulating this is a lot harder, a lot more work, and almost impossible to keep smooth deformations, smooth surfaces after the deformation. Another layout you often see to make orthopedic lasts is like this one with the red curves. It's made by projecting curves on a cast and then loft a surface through the curves. But what you end up with, I'll delete the curves, is a surface like this. And one of the things you can recognize a surface made like this is it has no real feather line. It's not, the curves do not follow the feather line like the green last does, and it has a lot more control points, and dragging those control points gives you unexpected, unwanted changes of the surface of the last. So, not good. Let's explore the features of this last a bit more. I'll get rid of the scan, and that leaves me with just this last. You can have nice other colors, but here you see the last and its control points. The first thing you want it to have is a fully controllable nose toe box. You see here the control points, and let's say I want to make the toe point a little bit more pointier, and I can do that by just dragging the control points, or make it a bit pointier like this, or make it a bit less thicker. And I'll scale it from this point. See? But you see, it's a fully controllable shape. I can make it more square. And what you also can do is create a database of nose types if you want, and just change the nose type you have here with a nose type from your library. I do not do that. I always make the nose type on the go, but that's just what you would like. The main thing is that even if you want to create a library of nose types or do it on the fly, you must be able to model the nose in any way you can think of. Another thing that might help, and that's not a feature of this type of last, is to do this. If you have this view of the last, it's very easy to see where you go wrong. You see it like this point, it's not nicely. This is better. And to learn this kind of modeling, well, it takes time, but in the end it's very rewarding. Okay, so I've now done this adjustment, and I can switch back to the smooth mode, and this is what I want to do. Well, that's one thing, being able to model the nose type. Another way to change the nose toe box or nose type, I'm not sure what is the best word, but to change the toe box is to replace it with a nose type from a toe box from a database. Let's say I have this one, the purple one, and I want to replace the existing toe box with the purple one. What I can do is select and extract the toe box from the green last. Get rid of this part. And somewhere around here, I suppose. Stitch. Do that one. And you can see I can make I can influence the way the transition is made between the new and the old toe box. So now I have replaced the old toe box with a new one. I don't like the direction. What I can do is just adjust it a little bit. So it still has the possibility to model and change it in detail. Okay, so now I have another toe box here, but I don't like this toe box, so I will go back to the original one. Okay, so that's how I can change the toe box. Another thing is the feather line. The feather line in this last, the layout of the last, you see these lines, these are the edges of the faces. They follow the feather line. The feather line is sharp at these points around the toe box and are rounded around the heel and in the middle foot. I can also make sharp edges around the heel if I want. Then I select the edges that I want, that I want to be sharp. Okay, crease. You see, they are sharp now. Often I have to change it a little bit after sharpening, change the location. See, but I have full control over the feather line. Also important is to create extra room around the heel when it's following the contours of the cast of the foot. It will push the foot to the front in the shoe. So here we want to create extra room, but that's a quite difficult procedure and almost impossible if you don't have your edges and your layout in a meaningful way. What I do, I select the control points. Now, and if I drag this control point, I get a shape that I don't want. What I want is that the control points are moving in the direction of the normal, so not horizontal or vertical, but I'll show you in the direction of the normal. Like this. You see? And another thing I want, I'll go back, is that the other control points, a bit farther away from these points, also follow the movement, but less. So it's called soft move. I'll show you. Oh, wrong button. Okay, and what's happening now is that the surrounding control points also follow the movement, you see? So I'll show you again. Instead of this, this happens. So that gives me the extra space around the heel that I want. In the same way, I can manipulate the surface around the ankle. So I often want extra room beneath the ankle. You see? I'll switch on the foot cast. I'll make everything transparent. It's better to see. You see? A very difficult area to modify is this area. See? To have a nice transition between the part that more or less is identical to the cast and the toe box, which is completely different. But again, you can make this the way you want it. This point, I'll switch on the scan again, make everything transparent again. You see, you have extra room here, and then it doesn't follow the contours of the cast. That's very important too, to be able to manipulate that part. See, this is not good. There should be a nice transition between those areas. Often I have here less room. I just make it more tight than the cast. But if you don't want it, you can give extra room here too. So those things are very important to be able to manipulate, and that's not always the case in many CAD systems. I also want to be able to make a retro capital support in the last. You see, I already have done that a little bit. You know, it's a bit concave here, but if you want it to be more, you can simply, I'll switch to UVN mode. See? And if I want to make it more sharp, see? It's not very smooth there, so I make it a bit smoother. Or make it wider. You see? But I also make these kinds of supports made of soft material, and then I do not model the last like this, but I simply glue on the insert, we call it the supplement, a separate retrocapital support. And of course, this part of the last I want to be able to drag it in the direction I want. And one final remark about the grips you have to modify the surface. I just have shown you modeling by dragging control points, but there are other ways to model the surface. I can also drag the faces themselves. You see? And if I want, I can drag the edges. But most of the time I drag control points, or grips as they are called. I hope I have been clear and you understand more about what a good CAD system should be able to do. Thank you for watching.